ground. How does it begin? With the piper's drone, with the coarse fabric of the land in greens and greys and purples, the lines of hoof and song that cross it. Landscape is pibroch, the drone never silent, never still, and fingered notes soar up over the moor. Of all the high places, I praise Ben Dorain. In beauty, she towers over other bens. I can't get enough of her. Look with me at the graceful sweep of land where the deer hold court, at the woods, those grassy groves where they browse, kingdom of cuckoo, wren, and chaffinch, at the mountain's gleaming face. Look at the white-rumped team with the hunt in pursuit. They catch news on the wind and are gone. Over there is a stag who knows his mind, a deep one who doesn't need to brag. He cuts a fine figure, at home in his own skin, that summer coat of rich, unfading red, like a royal seal. This is the ground, the theme of the hill's great music, laid down in layers like lacquer, like myth, like the work of a wasp on its paper nest.
A beautifully presented, original idea, a conversation about a mountain between an eco-aware 21st century poet and his closest 18th century predecessor that opens a fresh perspective on Scotland's countryside.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled to be shortlisted for the award. It's such an honour. There's many writers who I've admired in the past who've won the National Book Award or the Saltire Prize, and it's so exciting to be sort of in their company by being shortlisted. I wanted the poem itself to be quite a cosmopolitan poem. It's intensely rooted in one part of Scotland and in Scottish literature, but I wanted it to radiate out into much more international, global concerns and ideas. And I know that those are ideas that the Saltire Society really committed to as well. So to be shortlisted for this prize is a great excitement, a great honour, a great privilege. Thank you.
The unofficial tourist guide outside Glasgow Central. I'll show you another Glasgow, one with headbangers sporting shibs to stick in ribs, and folk who've woke to find their milk and meat and money nicked, are greeted every Friday with a queue at the door, loan sharks, rent-arrears men, priests and spivs, where stray gulls and cats are scoffed like Mars bars, and Wayne's scalps have been mauled by nits. Don't be conned by calves and galleries, the sorts here who wipe their gobs with fivers, and when they think twice of paying someone's ma with left-airs and clays unfit for charity. Folk here have nae mere holes in their belts to fit some right horrible strategy. Forget the tourist hype, Glasgow's great. I'll tell you about the Clyde side that made the English government pipe the revolution would start here and plant tanks and gangs of strikebreakers. Do you want a bleach version of Glasgow? One that's been written out the history books? I've got 3 Waynes to feed. I'll do it for a couple of quid.
Clydebuilt treads nimble, sparkling lines across streets and floorboards, sawmills and libraries, beautifully working at knots that thread between Glasgow and Donegal, always with worldly glances, with a profound sense of place as a politics and as resting space for memory and reckoning. Labourers, cutthroats and tired mothers emerge from these gorgeous, concrete yet vibrant poetic forms that catch a spirit of grief, of disregarded histories, of vicious politicians, of touching love. Gallagher's is a sophisticated, wry, humorous, shocking record keeping.
To be shortlisted for the Scottish Book of the Year award at the Poetry Award, well, that's something else. Yeah, it's marvellous actually. I've been telling all my friends and my family, my grandchildren, and they're all thinking, woo! So it's absolutely wonderful.
Jimmy Shand was very dry. At a Brechin B&B, he requested honey with his toast. The dual landlady brought a tiny pot. He inspected it. "I see you keep a bee." He lived for his work, and his work was music. Carnegie Hall, Dunfermline, or Carnegie Hall, New York, no odds. He named tune, time signature, and played it. His audience sat as though at prayer, heads bowed, sucking sweeties, silently nodding along to their music maker. That hall was crammed with joy, minutely expressed. The compression of his mouth set off the hoot of his reels, jigs, straths, bays. He rightly named a locomotive after him.
This is a short, well-crafted collection written from various global viewpoints by a well-travelled poet reflecting on those Scottish roots that bind us all.
Well, I'm extremely chuffed. It's nice at this point in life to be shortlisted for something like Saltire. I've been shortlisted before with other books, prose books. I can't remember if it's happened with a poetry book before, but no, I'm exceedingly pleased. It's just part of... It's an affirmation, of course it is. And at any point in your writing life, you're very glad to have those. It helps.
Falsification. What can I pass on, you ask, about methods of detecting the air? It has become so habitual, I'm not sure where to begin. Each morning I walk into the world looking for signs. Early, before light is normalized by the shadow of buildings and the gentle fraying of traffic. It seems the signs are most attracted to states of dereliction. To receive them, it helps to be empty, but imbued with residual function, like a disused water tower, or any number of withering technologies. Lie back. Let the world grow over you like weeds. Consider the sheets of air gridlocked in double glazing. Now are you beginning to understand?
This is fantastic poetry. I love how it moves between a kind of scientific investigation through to these complex reflections on what it means to be a lyric self, to what it means to experience oneself as something that's imposed upon and yet also directed by one's own sensibility. I just think that these lines are so beautifully controlled.
And it means a lot to me to be shortlisted for this prize. I suppose primarily because I think, I really began writing seriously and intensely in the last 10 years, which is when I first moved to Scotland. And it's thanks to many writers and poets and various people in Scotland who took me under their wing, who kind of educated me about poetry and encouraged me to write. And it's just been such a joy to have had several years of being able to share work with others and read other people's work and participate in a kind of extended writing community. So I'm very grateful.
Then we came to a quiet island where waves dropped quietly on the shore, where streams flowed quietly and waterfalls poured silence. We spoke there in whispers, and a rumour ran through the reeds that quiet was healing, that quiet would heal our wounds. Dawn spread, dusk settled. The interior of the island was quiet. You could lean back into quiet. You could carry it about. The cock didn't crow. The bull didn't bellow. Dogs had lost their bark. The woods were great reserves of quiet. The hills were resting bells. Soon we had had enough of it.
but we're too polite to say that quiet needs interruption, that events are a melody. Branches were heavy with moss, apples dropped without sound. You could glean the sweet, bruised fruits of quiet. You could spread your bread with honey from the quiet hive. Mountains were wrapped in mist, rocks in wool, hollows filled with pollen. The days were thistledown. On a morning early, we went down to the sea and pushed the boat out quietly.
Within this, a lifetime spent walking out in the hills, quietly noticing and recording surroundings, plants, birds, rocks, has been worked into a volume fit to accompany any readers walking and fit to wrap themselves up in.
Common. Ma bha ar falla fan an hips. Is a féime go fón gyrás ar a bhóbail. Han jalan ye ar fiog leo is seach, get a bhai gís go ma bhail a chomanjacht lís na luncheon chiolaki. Inis, chynnyri eatir torch fiars am miho. Ska fôn lachil mi café cyn gynnyniac. Y ced ar na snahan dorach a tor ag sa falle. Y brec ag dy gorm yn tlaid gan trai as un a tost sig hum is ho. Sna torch gan is loch yn a lawnrich a tri har bawn thrwsio. Is mwylach yn tol. Common. My mother is gone in her hips and has to call back on her mobile. There's a power cut all over Lewis, and though she'd been in the middle of the Comaniatri's funeral lunches, now I barely have her attention. Can almost see her at the window ledge watching unpickable threads of dark pattern, the village's long black drip to the sea, silent except for hums and haws, as torches and paraffin lamps flit, twos and threes, across Balnthrwsel and Mulchanthal.
A collection in 2 tongues that will cause readers to ponder the author's deeply hidden message.
It's a huge honour to be shortlisted for the award, and the Salter Society have been really great supporters of Gaelic and Gaelic poetry in particular, and so it means a huge amount to be on the shortlist. It's really strange because this book was published in March 2020, and the world has changed a little bit since then, and so to have recognition after all we've been through is a huge boon. It's just a recognition that the ways I was thinking of the ways I was working before the pandemic still have currency, and they still have the possibility of meaning something despite where we all are now.